learning more about their culture and their way of life and just how knowledgeable they are about the rainforest is truly amazing. It's something I'm so interested in. It's just, I don't know, they just are so in touch with the earth and the Amazon and the rainforest. It's just on a whole other level, and that is well on display throughout this whole story. So it's an amazing one.
It really is. I'm excited to dive in. But before we do, I'm your host, Kendall.
I'm Josh.
And we are joined by our production team, John and Ian.
Hello.
Howdy, guys.
Hi.
All right. Well, shall we just dive in?
Yeah, let's start. We're gonna give you some background information on the some of the events leading up to it, the people involved in the actual plane crash itself, to kind of help give you a more deeper, wider view of really how this all unfolded. Beginning with Magdalena, who is the mother of the children, who we'll be talking about.
Yeah. So Magdalena Makatai had lived her whole life within the confines of the Colombian Amazon, knowing how to live off the land and survive with just what the earth could provide. And she was the third of 10 children raised by Fatima Valencia, who goes by just Valencia, and then Norisco too. And she was raised mostly in the outskirts of the Araquara, in the extremely remote villages deep in the Colombian Amazon. And electricity was only provided by gas generators and solar panels, and cell service was only available at the village's small landing strip. Araquara is geographically isolated. It sits on the edge of a canyon where the Caqueta River flows, and the rapids are so severe that travel by boat is nearly impossible. The village was even the site of a penal colony where Colombia's most dangerous criminals were sent. From 1938 to 1971, criminals were allowed to live outdoors because the escape into the thick rainforest definitely meant they were not going to make it out alive. However, the penal colony eventually collapsed after it could not successfully grow agriculture within the area. The indigenous people of Araquara, like Magdalena and her family, had to learn to live off of the land through slash and burn techniques over generations. Now, Magdalena's family were members of the Watoto tribe, and her mother, Valencia, was a village elder who made sure that children understood and respected the surrounding rainforest. In their belief, the Watoto see everything in the jungle, trees, rocks, animals. They see it all as having a
Welcome to my live
powerful
stream, guys.
spirit attached. And some of these spirits are good,
We are
providing
live from South
crop,
Africa.
safety, and water. However, there are evil spirits, also known as the
Currently listening to this podcast about these other 4 kids who survived in the Amazon jungle. Very interesting indeed.
The Watoto communicate with these
Like, how do they
spirits,
do that?
but the duendes can get rid of that ability.
I don't think I would survive
They take out your voice
even
and
10
you cannot
hours
scream. While Valencia was a
in the
village
Amazon
elder
jungle.
and therefore made sure that her children were well versed in Watoto spiritual practices, she also taught them how to use the rainforest for sustenance, to grow food, and to scavenge safe fruits. Magdalena spent her early childhood in the forest, caring for the local community garden, and also playing soccer. In 2005, she competed in the regional tournament in the village of La Chorrera, which is 60 miles away from Araquara. Now, she had met a young man named Andres Jacob Bombert, who was a forest ranger and player on the rival
Let's
team.
get started, guys.
After coffee, he asked her out on a proper date, and they spent the evening dancing and eventually kissed. Andre said it was love at first sight and proposed to Magdalena before they quickly had their first 2 children, Angie and John.
Here comes the ad. Welcome to my live stream, guys. If you guys like my art, I'm on Instagram too. Hello. Welcome to my live stream.
As her mother.
Andre's father was the chief back in La Chorrera, and he taught young Leslie how to fish and hunt monkeys in the jungle.
Dang,
As a
hunt
child,
monkeys.
He spent a lot of time studying the sounds of birds,
Hunting monkeys.
of trees, and of course,
What?
safe fruits for human consumption. Because of course, there's lots of plants and fruits that can kill
Hunting
you.
monkeys, man.
Andre said this of his daughter.
I don't even know how to do
How to
that,
defend
man.
herself in the jungle.
I'm doing good. What about you?
From a very young age.
I'm doing very good myself.
Magdalena then gave birth to their 4th child.
What about yourself?
In 2014, while she and Andres were still married. However, in June 2016, Andres fell while working.
My bad. I don't know how to do your name.
He couldn't speak or move.
Masamba.
Really took a toll on
I don't know how to do your name properly.
Magdalena
My bad.
Andres taking Selene and Leslie
How are you doing?
to live with their parents back in Araquara. While home in Arauquara, Magdalena found work in an illegal mine allegedly run by a rebel group, the Carolina Ramirez Front, which was using Arauquara's remote airstrip as a transfer point for cocaine shipments to Brazil. And it was in this mine that Magdalena met her second husband, Manuel Renault. Manuel was 26, and although he was very strong, he also had garnered some reputation for bullying others and drinking too much, bit of a wild man. Eventually, the couple moved to an indigenous reservation called Puerto Sabalo, where he was raised and became the area's governor. And Magdalena gave birth to
I'm
two
glad
more
you're doing
children,
good. I'm very
son
glad you're
Etienne
doing
in
good.
2018 and baby Kristen in
I'm very glad
2022.
that you're doing
Despite
good.
Manuel's success, Magdalena's mother, Valencia, really disapproved of their marriage. Manuel had been accused of abusing his ex-wife, and Valencia said that she had even seen him kissing her in the capital of Bogota after his marriage to Magdalena. Other accusations would also
Damn, what
come
a
out
crazy
against him
story.
concerning his treatment of Magdalena
They should
and
make
their
a movie
children from
about
her
this.
marriage to Andres.
The
However, in
4
April
kids who survived in
2023,
the Amazon
Manuel fled
jungle.
Puerto
Is
Sabalo,
it Amazon jungle or
believing that the
forest?
Carolina Ramirez Front had threatened his life to gain more control over the region. In Bogota, he contacted Magdalena and said that she and the children were in danger too. And in the years since Magdalena had returned to Arauquara, cocaine cartels and revolutionary groups had started to move their operations to more rural locations
I'm glad you're doing good.
to avoid detection.
I'm
And
very
while in
glad.
these largely indigenous areas, the groups would also recruit children into the cartel and commit violence against anyone who stood in their way. This issue stemmed from a power vacuum that was created following the mismanaged peace deal in 2016 between Colombia and the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. In 2021, an indigenous person was killed every 4 days by either a cartel or revolutionary groups
What
like
the?
FARC, as well as the Colombian state military.
Dang.
And obviously, this sowed a very, very deep distrust between indigenous communities like the Watotos and any armed group.
While Magdalena's parents urged her not to follow Manuel to Bogota, saying that Manuel is lying. Valencia even said she heard Magdalena sobbing while on the phone with Manuel. So without telling her parents, Magdalena packed up her things and took 13-year-old Leslie, 9-year-old Solani, 4-year-old Tian, and 11-month-old Kristen.
So these guys were actually kids.
Next to the Arauquara airstrip. And every day she begged Colombian soldiers on the airstrip to get them seats aboard a military flight near the country's capital. Manuel also called in, and a small family was finally given seats aboard flight HK2803. And they were accompanied by an indigenous leader, Herman Mendoza, in San Jose del Guaviare before they drove to Bogota. The family boarded the plane on May 1st, 2023. Magdalena texted Manuel, "We are leaving now," as she held 11-month-old Kristen on her lap. According to journalist William Ralston, Hernando Murcia was, quote, the kind of pilot who flew routes that others wouldn't dare. Hernando worked for Avian Line Charter, an air taxi company dedicated to transporting people and supplies across the Amazon in Colombia, often being commissioned for small military flights aboard his single propeller Cessna 206. Now, it's important to note just how dangerous many of these flights were. The landing strips, like the one in Arauquara, were just clearings of dirt and gravel that were not up to the safety standards of Colombia's Civil Aviation Authority. More than that, the unpredictable weather and dense rainstorms often led pilots flying blind through lightning without the use of their radios. Can you imagine that? However, Hernando felt like he had seen it all in his 30 years that he had been working for Avian Line. In 2017, he even experienced total engine failure while in the air, forcing him to crash land on unfinished road, saving the lives of everyone on board. However, the Cessna 206 had quite a history before Hernando as well. It had completed thousands of hours in flight time since it was manufactured in 1982, and had actually crashed in 2021 before it's purchased by Avian Line. The propeller, engine, all required massive repairs before it was safe to fly again. And on the morning of May 1st, Hernando carried out his pre-flight inspection and expected to transport representatives of Yauto, a carbon credit brokerage. However, members
Hello, Moza Officiel. Welcome to my live stream. Welcome to my live stream.
And her family.
We are live from South Africa.
4 children sat in the airplane's cabin while Herman
We are
Mendoza sat
live
next to Hernando in the cockpit. However,
from South
issues with the
Africa.
flight began the moment Hernando started the engines. A rainstorm had turned the dirt airstrip into thick mud, and the wheels wouldn't move. Here comes another ad.
I hate the fact that most of the ads that I'm seeing here on YouTube are AI ads. I don't know whether people are lazy nowadays or not. I don't know what's going on.
Then, just before 7
What
a.m.,
happened to
the plane
genuine
took
content,
off.
guys?
Although weather conditions had improved considerably since the storm and
What
Hernando was
happened to
flying
being
in blue
genuine?
skies, something unknown went wrong with the engine. While flying over one of the densest parts of the entire Amazon, Hernando radioed air traffic
So
control.
they tried flying an aircraft.
2803, my engine is idling. I'm going to look for a field. And air traffic control tried to direct him towards nearby rural airstrips, but his radio
That must
hit
have
a
been
dead
scary.
zone. When he was able to speak again 15 minutes later,
That must have
the
been
engines
scary.
had returned to working order. But then, only 8 minutes later, he radioed again. Mayday, Mayday, 2803, 2803, my engine failed again. Hernando knew there would be no clearing in the rainforest beneath him to land the airplane safely, so he tried to find a bushy tree, as sometimes the surrounding flora
But which one
could
is
hold on
worse?
without extreme damage. It's just how
Crashing in the
rainforest
rainforest
is.
or
However, he decided
the
to change
Amazon
course,
rainforest
telling air
or
traffic control that he was going to aim for a small river
on the
to
ocean?
right. His last words over the radio were, "I am going to hit water." The radar tracked the plane as it took a sharp right turn before it completely disappeared at 7:50 a.m. Magdalena's parents didn't even
I don't
know
like
she
the
had
ocean. I'd
tried to
rather
fly
choose
out of Paraguay, and they were horrified that she had
Amazon
been on board
rainforest.
with 4 of their grandchildren. Valencia said, "I felt terrible, like I had a fever." Andres was devastated as he had just lost his father and couldn't fathom that he may have just
Dang,
lost
man.
his
Yo.
2 youngest daughters as well. He said, "It hurts my soul." When Manuel learned that the plane had crashed en route to him, he immediately left for Cachiporo, where an indigenous search team was collecting volunteers. Back in Araquara, Diana, the sister of Herman Mendoza, and his cousin, Natalia Rodriguez, began gathering others in town for a search party. Natalia said, "When someone you love goes missing, you desperately want to find them. It's that keeps you going." They then enlisted Watoto leader Henry Guerrero to direct a team of 5 men to try and find the crashed airplane. And while this first group set off
They
into
better
the
find
jungle,
them.
Avian Line also created 2 search teams. However, only a short time after they headed out, the Avian Line group got lost and attempted to light a fire and grab the attention of a passing aircraft. But after wandering through the jungle, they stumbled across the hut of a man named Dumar. While Dumar tried to stay under the radar as he ran a secret cocaine operation, he allowed the Avian Line and indigenous volunteers to use his home as a headquarters in the thick jungle. Soon, Manuel and Edwin Packy, a representative of the Organization of Indigenous Peoples of the Colombian Amazon, and another cousin of Herman arrived at the hut. More volunteers arrived, as Dumar told them he had seen the Cessna gliding over his hut at only a few hundred feet elevation and was headed east. In addition to Dumar's direction, the Cessna also broadcast its approximate location. However, it kept showing up several miles apart from its previous location, so some people thought that maybe a survivor had detached the beacon, the tracking beacon from the plane, and was now walking with it on foot. The Colombian state military also put together a search team headed by Pedro Sanchez, the leader of Colombia's Special Operations Joint Command. However, for the most part, these soldiers took on missions that involved capturing and or killing rebel leaders, narcos, and terrorists, and never pulled off a search and rescue mission before. It probably comes as no surprise to you that I hate shopping, man. Well, I hate certain kinds of shopping.
Is
I
this
don't
an
like
ad?
to go into stores to
It's
shop.
an
It's
ad.
just that I pick it up. It's too huge.
What is this about?
The Stitch Fix. Seeing what's to look
Like
like.
a 3-minute ad or something.
And began mapping a search area of survivors.
Alright, we're
So
back.
Major brought directions near the smoke plume and began mapping a search area of 4 square miles, with commandos walking in a pattern of triangles and zigzags. Then on May 6, 3 Black Hawk helicopters flew over the rainforest, complete with soldiers armed with M4s, hand grenades, and night vision goggles, fearing that they might find a rebel group hunkered down in the rainforest. 2 groups, Dragon 4 and Destructor 1, jumped into the northern section of the jungle, while the third team, Ares 3, searched along the Apaporis River. Now, in addition to the 11 soldiers, Ares 3 also had a search and rescue dog with them, a Belgian Malinois called Wilson. Captain Ender Montiel, who led Dragon 4, said the area was a virgin jungle, a jungle that one way or another had not been stepped on by human beings.
Dang, that's...
And this is the jungle that these children are just hopefully out surviving in. The soldiers searched from 6
40
a.m.
days, guys.
until
Imagine that.
sunbeam
Imagine
set,
40
and were
days.
constantly berated by rain and had
40
food
days
thrown at
without
them by monkeys in the canopy above. And the soldiers were walking up to 6
social
miles
media,
a day
man.
during their search and only communicated using hand signals in case they were being watched or
40
listened to
days
by
without
armed
electricity.
militia. Destructor 1 found the source of the
40
smoke plume
days.
early in their mission.
A lot can happen in 40 days.
Line volunteers before they found Dumar's hut.
Imagine
Now,
40
this error
days
was blamed on Pedro, as
without
Valencia had been
electricity,
pressuring him to include the indigenous volunteers in his mission since
without
the
a shelter,
She said, "We as indigenous people know how to navigate the
without a
jungle
roof on your
and
head.
understand the unique spirits of each territory." However, in the beginning, Pedro was worried that the indigenous volunteers would disobey orders, and due to the recent killings of indigenous people by the military and other armed groups, they did not trust him either. And again, this wasn't without reason. A 2021 report suggested that the Colombian state military had killed over 6,400 civilians, many of them indigenous people, and they later announced that they were enemy combatants, which was a practice known as false positives. Elizabeth Dickinson of the International Crisis Group said, "There has been a sense on behalf of these communities that the military was absolutely not there to protect them. In fact, it was the opposite. They viewed them as a risk." In the beginning, both the military and indigenous searches kept their distance from one another. However, the military searchers had grown extremely tired after walking hundreds of miles in the endless jungle for 9 days straight.
9
The only
days.
thing they had found was an abandoned FARC rebel camp, and some of them began to wonder what the point of this mission was. If the plane had crashed, surely everyone on board would have died, right? There would be no one to rescue. However, on the morning of May 15th, Sergeant Wilmar Miranda saw something pink amongst the green jungle. And guess what it was? A baby bottle. Imagine seeing that, just lying out there in the jungle. How thrown off you would be.
And hopeful.
Yeah.
A baby bottle, guys.
This game,
In the middle of nowhere.
you're not ready for it.
A baby bottle. In the middle of nowhere. That's mind blowing, man.
Yeah, no,
So you're
well,
like,
I
what?
guess in their case they're looking
Like-
for it. But still, at first, I think even in those circumstances, it'd be hard to put it all together and realize, oh my god, they might be alive out here.
Yeah.
So the soldiers ended up sending a photo of the bottle to Pedro, who showed it to Valencia, and she confirmed that this bottle belonged to 11-month-old Kristen. And the bottle contained cloudy water from the jungle.
Dang.
Since Kristen couldn't even walk yet, someone else had to have been alive to have filled it for her.
Mm-hmm.
An 11-month-old out in the
11
Amazon
months.
rainforest.
I just cannot.
Drinking jungle water.
Yeah. And she has to be with one of her siblings, and it's,
Yeah.
they're not that old. It's just incredible. So, a few hours later, Sergeant Miranda found some fruit with human bite marks. He said it was happiness and joy to see that. There was life. He tried to spot a trail in the jungle, but the consistent rain had washed away any potential tracks. Meanwhile, a few miles south of the military searchers, the indigenous searchers were also growing wary. Edwin Packey served as the group's leader, while others, including Manuel, went to Cachiporo for supplies. But Edwin had twisted his ankle and began to give up hope. Later in the day on May 15th, one of the indigenous searchers found something huge in the forest. The crashed Cessna.
The searchers gathered Edwin and others in the jungle to go and take a look at this plane, which had crashed in a nose-down position directly against the forest floor. The fuselage jutted from the ground like a flagpole, and the propeller was snapped off. They also noticed that the forest canopy was somehow untouched, completely covering the aircraft from the military helicopter searching from above. As the searchers approached the plane, they immediately recognized the scent of decomposing bodies. Even though it had only been 16 days, the Amazonian climate had reduced those aboard to only skeletal remains. It was 16 days. Still, the indigenous searchers could identify Magdalena from her long hair and Hernando because he was still wearing his pilot's jacket. While Edwin couldn't find Herman or the children, he felt, quote, that nobody could have survived the crash. He recorded the plane's coordinates and saw some soldiers en route to Dumar's hut. Pedro ordered Dragon 4 to identify the bodies the next morning. And while walking to the site, Dragon 4 found a crude shelter made of
40
leaves
days,
cut with a
guys.
small pair of scissors discarded on the forest
That
floor.
ain't no
The
joke.
leaves
40
still looked
days.
fresh, indicating that the shelter had been built recently. And in order to bind the leaves together, hair ties were used, which is pretty she like created, like that's just such a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Keep them all together.
Mm-hmm.
When Dragon 4 found the plane, they hoisted it using a winch and discovered 3 bodies: Magdalena, Hernando, and Herman. Which Herman, at first they weren't sure if he was in there, but he was in the crushed nose part of the plane and was likely decapitated on impact, because it was just, if you look at the pictures of the crash, the plane front is just completely smashed.
Straight nosedive.
So the thought was maybe they'd catch enough, dense trees that it'd actually like slow it down at least. But unfortunately, it seems like it went right through the canopy and crashed into the ground. And when Herman's brother Delio heard the news, he fell to the floor and shouted, "My little brother." As the soldiers searched the aircraft, they began to realize something. The cabin door of the plane was open, and bags, luggage, and diapers were all over the ground. Dragon 4 thought that all 4 of the children had likely survived. So that moment, they find the 3 adults are all dead. They realize, well, there's none of the children are still here, but there's stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it became very obvious that they left the site of the crash and also broke into the bags. Leading up to the departure, the 4 children were extremely excited to start their lives in the capital city of Bogota. They had never flown before, but they had told their friends that they were happy to go with their mother. However, as the plane fell only an hour after takeoff, it struck the forest canopy. The oldest child, Leslie, banged her head on the ceiling of the plane and lost consciousness. The first thing she heard when she woke up was Kristen crying from her mother's arms. Leslie shouted, "Mama, Mama," until she realized that Magdalena had died on impact. Leslie took Kristen from Magdalena's arms and used a diaper to stop the blood flowing from her own head wound. And at this point, she's still very disoriented, right? She just woke up from a plane crash. She's bleeding from her head. There's crash debris everywhere. And at that point, she knew that Hernando and Herman were also dead, including her mother.
All the adults around her, and she's got screaming children.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in her shoes? And then to even have the thought to grab a diaper to absorb the blood.
So smart.
She just had the right skills for this.
Yeah, and then to find out, her siblings are still alive.
Yep.
Tien and Selene were completely unharmed.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie was the only one of the 4 children who actually sustained an injury. And she's also the oldest. Leslie carried Kristen, Tien, and Selene out of the plane and then constructed a small camp using a towel as a mosquito net to keep the children dry. Because you have to remember, in the Amazon rainforest, it rains 16 hours a day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dang.
And then
16 hours a day.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
I hate mosquitoes.
I know.
So you need a mosquito net in the rainforest, and she's using a towel just to try to create some shelter from the mosquitoes.
That's
unreal.
16 hours, guys.
They're still trying to probably wrap their minds around the fact that their mother
Waiting
just
for 16
died
hours.
in a tragic accident, and they saw the end result.
Right.
It's horrible.
So for a while they waited, hoping that someone would spot the crash site from the air and find them.
But I don't think they would have survived if they landed or crashed
not wanting to break the
in the
news to a
desert.
4-year-old, said that she didn't know.
They probably would have
Surviving in
made
the
it.
Amazon is not the same as camping out in any other wilderness on Earth. Because of course the Amazon's got lots of creepy crawly things. There's poisonous plants. There's flowers that can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention there's big cats, pumas, and
Even
leopards.
just fruit too. Poisonous. Eat the wrong thing.
Too many ideas, too many tasks.
If you eat the wrong thing, it's over.
Here's how to break the cycle.
If you eat the wrong banana, you're cooked.
Bugs. Yeah. Yeah, he did mention the bugs, but again, reiterating.
But there's decomposing human bodies inside the plane. So of course, you gotta wonder, and this was a thought that she had, was big cats could be coming. They're gonna smell that, they're gonna come look for it. A jaguar could come out of nowhere.
And that's just for her at that age to have that thought.
Yeah, but
Everything she's been through.
Yeah, but also you have to remember they were literally raised
No, I know, but just
in this life.
I guess it's hard to just imagine. I don't know the human strength to do anything after going through something like this, like surviving a plane crash and seeing your mother in that condition. I just can't imagine being able to process any thought.
Yeah, they also used rags to wrap their feet in order to protect them from the forest floor, because you imagine it's not soft. There's lots of things you can step on, vines and bugs and snakes. Who knows what else? In addition
these
to
little
the
kids are
shelters that
geniuses.
they made, the children also found shelter inside of large tree trunks and under the forest canopy. But after over a week of waiting, Leslie feared that predators would be drawn to the site. So she grabbed some of her mother's clothes, farina, which is milled cassava flour, juice, soda, and candy. She also packed some scissors, a first aid kit, diapers, and her sister's baby bottle. And then using the sun, Leslie led her siblings west through the jungle. They followed a stream for water, hoping to find crops and fruits that grew alongside. So that's how they got water. The only other food that they could find was fruit from milk trees, which actually have seeds that you can consume, and the fruit of a palm tree. And luckily for them, these fruits were actually in season.
40 days, guys. Imagine 40 days. That's
Otherwise, most other plants in the jungle would be completely deadly for human consumption. So they got lucky that it just happened to be a time of year that some of these were actually fruiting, and they ate some other fruit that's kind of like an avocado. So luckily, the amount of biodiversity in the rainforest is, I think, there's
40
more
days,
biodiversity there than anywhere else on the planet. So there are a lot of things, but again, you have to be knowledgeable on what you're picking and eating.
Pick the wrong thing once, and that's it.
Right. And this is where their indigenous upbringing and knowledge and culture really come in clutch for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I believe the avocado fruit was the fruit of the palm tree. They described it as a milled peso. I think that's like the actual word for it. They said it's like the same consistency and size as an avocado. It's just like a very unique thing. I'm sure someone out there has had one.
Milled peso?
Milled peso, I believe, is what they said, at least in the CDC news report.
Is it green like an avocado? Curious.
Yeah, I want to look it up.
It's known for its oily pulp, which can be used to make a creamy chocolate milk-like juice
Wow.
with a faint acai flavor.
Interesting.
It's also used to produce an oil similar to olive oil. Okay, so it's kind of a yellow. It looks like it's like yellowy, but definitely same kind of consistency when you cut it open. You scoop it out.
Now, meanwhile, the military, they're ramping up their search now that they know that the kids are potentially alive out there. So they started this new, larger effort to find the children, codenamed Operation Hope. More troops and search dogs were now tracking the forest, and aircrafts dropped lighters, survival manuals, and food. Pedro's children might have seen the soldiers at some point, and fearing armed men, maybe they hid in the foliage to avoid contact. He asked their grandmother, Valencia, if she could record a message for the soldiers to play so that the children knew there were no issues. Valencia said, "I felt like crying, but strengthened my heart." She recorded a message simply saying, "I beg you, stay calm. The army is looking for you." And then the soldiers blasted that message from their helicopters. On May 17th, soldiers encountered a group of men in the jungle and feared they might be
they should
cartel
definitely make a
members
movie
or
of this,
rebels.
guys.
However, they learned that the men were indigenous searchers.
A movie based on a
they
true
had
story.
been avoiding. The soldiers then led the searchers back to their camp and gave them food, water, and supplies. Manuel was amongst this group, and he asked the soldiers if he could borrow one of their satellite phones to make a call. And he went ahead and called a fortune teller in Villa Vicencio. And the fortune teller told Manuel that if they headed west from the soldiers' camp for 270 yards, they would find a trail that would bring them to the children. The soldiers, many of them deeply Catholic, were very skeptical of the fortune teller. However, after following the instructions, they discovered some footprints. Then later that evening, the Belgian Malinois named Wilson chewed through his collar and unfortunately ran into the jungle. Soldiers looked for him, wondering if he could possibly pick up the children's trail. And in addition, a false report began circulating that the children had been found by one of the avian line groups and were on a boat. And the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, tweeted that they had found the children and it was a joy for the country, even though it was quickly determined to be a false rumor.
A glimmer of hope. Colombia's president tweeting that 4 children on board a single-engine aircraft that crashed in the jungle on May 1st had been found alive and well. Rescuers using scattered debris to trace them, but on Thursday, the president's tweet was deleted, saying the information, quote, could not be confirmed. Government officials blaming poor communication.
Then on May 19th, Pedro ordered all of his soldiers, who had walked hundreds of miles at this point, to increase their efforts and complete even more daily miles. And Pedro began wondering, I thought there was a different energy in the jungle that wasn't allowing the children to be rescued. Valencia had been telling the media that a duende had captured the children, and Pedro began consulting indigenous leaders he knew on ceremonies they could perform to help their search. And while these early ceremonies didn't lead to any new discoveries, they did mark a turning point in the collaboration between the indigenous searchers and the military. And at first, the soldiers were extremely untrustworthy of their indigenous counterparts, but now they were actively trying to learn about the jungle from those who had spent their entire lives there. Pedro also met with Giovanni Yule, a nationally respected Indigenous figure. Their hug was the first time an Indigenous leader had embraced a general, so pretty incredible moment. Giovanni also mustered members of various tribes to aid everyone else in the search.
Work is a pain in the apps. My files are in this app, my chats in this app, projects in that app. Oh, wow. You really working your ass off, Daniel. You need ClickUp.
I'm stoked to tell you about today's sponsor, Function, for a lot of reasons. But for one, Function has given me access to data about my health I would otherwise have never seen without them. We're talking over 160 biomarkers that you can test for, from heart and hormones to toxins, inflammation, and stress. You can also access multi-region MRI and CT scans, all tracked in one secure place over time. Function allows you to get a full 360-degree view of your body, what's going on inside your body. And I just did my first blood test about a week ago, and that whole process in itself was very, very easy. You booked it all online. It was at a local clinic at my local hospital. Great experience overall. You know, I'm not great at getting my blood drawn, so I have to lay down, and they brought me an ice pack, and it was honestly perfect. It was the best experience I've ever had getting my blood drawn, because it, you know, that take a decent amount of blood, right, to run all these different tests. At the time of this recording, I'm getting my next blood draw tomorrow. So once I have those two blood draws, I'll be able to get 100 plus biomarkers tested and get my full results. But just from my first test alone, I already got some very interesting data points in here, including my biological age, which is actually, to my surprise and delight, 9.2 years younger than my calendar age. So I am 32 years old, and according
Dang, that
to
must be
Function,
great, eh?
my biological age is 23.6. Beautiful. You know, that just put a smile on my face, made me feel good, and fortunate that I am very, very healthy. I didn't even know that you could really figure this out. So if you're not familiar with what biological age is, it is the indicator of the quality and rate of aging on a genetic, cellular, and molecular level. Faster biological aging increases the risk of diseases associated with aging, and then list off a bunch. Because as you biologically age, you gradually accumulate a bunch of different things, right? Our bodies start breaking down, essentially. But it's good to know that my body is doing well. It also told me what foods to eat, some recommendations for another one of the tests, including I need to eat more dark chocolate, pasture-raised eggs, and pickles were in my top 5. And I was not mad at that at all. So as a part of your Function Health membership, you're automatically getting access to 100 plus biomarkers, and there's additional tests that you can do to get access to even more data that, again, your primary care doctor is likely never going to test you for, because it's just not a part of the routine sort of checkups, and you're going to get far more information on your health than anywhere else. So I am super excited to get my full results, and they'll have a clinician actually write up notes to help explain all the different data points that I'm seeing in my Function Health dashboard, which will be really nice to understand, so I'll have further updates in the future. But yeah, Function is a really, really great service. You should definitely check it out. We have a special offer for you. Right now, you can learn more and join using our link. The first 1,000 get a $100 credit toward their membership. So take advantage of that. Visit www.functionhealth.com/milehigher or use gift code milehigher100 at sign up to own your health. And by May 24th, 92 Indigenous searchers and 113 soldiers were combing the Amazon, many of them in combined groups. Pedro ordered his soldiers to follow the Indigenous searchers according to their beliefs, a marked difference from the beginning of the search operation. And throughout the next 2 days, they discovered diapers, a pair of running shoes, children's footprints, and what seemed to be dog prints that appeared to walk beside them, which is cool that this dog likely found them and then just hung out with them. On May 26th, baby Kristen's first birthday, the searchers sang her happy birthday, even though they still did not know where she or her siblings could be. And by early June, the searchers had grown exhausted, with many having walked over 1,000 miles in the previous month, let alone through the Amazon rainforest, which I've heard some people talk about like American soldiers who've hiked through the Amazon before through like military training exercises. They said it's unreal. There's like no place like it. It's extremely difficult. But they began hanging whistles and speakers in the jungle, hoping the children would blow on them to reveal their location. Pedro told the media, "It's not like finding a needle in a haystack. It's like finding a tiny flea in a huge rug that moves in unpredictable directions." June 4th marked an 8-day break for some of the soldiers. As they were leaving, an indigenous man named Jose Rubio asked the soldiers if they could secure him some ayahuasca for the search. Well, certainly a very odd request for the soldiers, they ended up securing him some ayahuasca, and they had it flown from Aracora. The cousin of Herman Mendoza, Natalia Rodriguez, actually chartered that plane in order to bring the ayahuasca to the searchers personally. And on June 7th, they began the first ayahuasca ceremony. Even Manuel, the younger children's father, took some, but it had no effect. The next day, only 16 indigenous searchers were still on the ground, and many of them were battling pneumonia and hadn't eaten in days. In the early morning hours of June 9th, Jose drank some ayahuasca himself as a last resort. And for the next 45 minutes, Jose was tripping. He was hallucinating. And during those hallucinations, he actually met the children along with a duende that was holding them. And Jose told this spirit that he would take the children, and it agreed as long as they could cast a spell on the searchers. And as Jose returned to reality, he told the other searchers that they would find the children that day. So after having this very intense psychedelic experience with the ayahuasca, he was like, "We're going to find them today." So 3 volunteers left for the jungle unaccompanied by the exhausted soldiers. And as they started their journey, they found a red-footed tortoise. And in Watoto culture, if a tortoise is found while hunting, the hunters will be given a wish if the animal is released afterwards.
I just got chills.
Red-footed tortoise, man. So they picked up the tortoise and said, "All right, turtle, you're going to help me find the kids. You either help me or I'll eat your liver." And then they strapped that tortoise to their backs and carried it up a steep hill. And as the sun set, they still trusted Jose's words that they were gonna find the children that day. And literally 10 minutes later, as the men reached a clearing, they heard a baby crying. And we actually have a little bit of footage of the moment that you found the children are alive. Let's roll it.
Just the timing of it all so
It's amazing.
incredible.
It's just like, what's magical?
I know.
You want to see the footage? We want to see the footage. You want to see the...
These poor kids.
Dang, this is the crying baby.
Ken can hardly stand. I really just can't.
No, he couldn't stand up the end. Yeah,
There's
he had to
Leslie.
whip himself.
Yeah, so weak.
Tienen que llegar y papá. Sí, claro, ese lo. Sí. El abuelo también tiene. No le da tanto dulce, no le da tanto dulce.
No, eso es. ¿Cómo que está la presión cuando nomás?
Esto de eso.
Sí, porque sí.
Wow. They're so it's crazy.
Tiene que sacarle la basura que detrás del monte, entonces tiene que soplarlo antes de sacarlo de acá. Entonces sacan. Ya como que otra que
What language are they speaking? What language is that?
Imagine the shock when they first saw them too.
So this, the searchers are just giving them some type of pink liquid, just trying to hydrate them a little bit. I think they gave them a tiny bit of food. Obviously, you can't give them a ton of food, but just kind of there giving them some care before carrying them out of the jungle. It's incredible. Again, this is a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 11-month-old.
It's incredible. Insane.
40 days.
After going down on a plane, crashing,
All your adults are dead.
watching your mother die, and then carrying on all 4 of you in a fucking jungle.
Yep.
Think of how dark it is out there at night, dude.
I
You
know.
can't see shit.
Leslie deserves an award more recognition.
Oh my
like,
god, it's
you know,
incredible.
and everyone involved in the search, incredible for them too. But it kind of bothered me that at the end there was this big parade in the documentary. There's this big parade for everyone involved in the search, but the kids weren't even there. And I'm sure that's the last thing they would want to do is be out there. But I wish they could have been honored because truly their time out there had to have been. I can't even imagine what it was like, and we actually don't know that much about what their time was like.
When the men first saw Leslie and Selene, they told them not to fear as they knew the Makatai family. Leslie held baby Kristen and the men asked where their little brother was, and they pointed to a small shelter where he was lying inside. He said to the men, "My mom is dead," with tears in his eyes. None of the children could physically stand. The men released the tortoise and now ran the children several miles back to camp with a new burst of energy feeding them along the way. When they reached the camp, Jose blew tobacco smoke on the children to cleanse any spirits, and they radioed commands saying, "Miracle, miracle,
What the?
miracle." The children were rescued
What
after
the
40
what
days
is-
lost in the jungle,
God,
and the men
The
believed
what
that
is
they would
going
not
on
have
here?
survived even a single day more.
yeah,
So they were very close to the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Got them just in time.
Like, I think it's crazy too, like, just as we've been going through this, all of the searchers too are getting pneumonia, they're twisting their
Yeah.
ankles, like, even these full-grown men, and many of them also very experienced in the forest, are still getting really severely fucked up by it. It's like, it's crazy that these children could do it on their own.
It makes you think that there was something divine protecting them out there.
Yeah.
How can you not
Yeah.
look at this in a spiritual way and just how did they do this? All 4 of them alive? It's amazing.
It is a miracle
It is a miracle.
for sure.
Yeah. Now, like I said, we don't know much about their experience out there because the children have never been interviewed. I'm sure maybe one day. I don't know. We can only hope. I'd love to know more. But she does explain some of it. Some of it is explained in the documentary, just a few details.
Right, she gave like a report to the military, and then some of that has been made available, but no proper media interviews.
Yeah, which that's the last thing that she's concerned about, I'm sure, in her family. But she explained to the soldiers that they were able to find some of the airdropped food. I'm glad they got some of it. And she said that she was never scared until she heard her grandmother's voice over the speakers, and she thought it was like some type of spirit. So that sort of didn't work out the way that they were hoping. They also hid from the soldiers, afraid that they were members of the group that threatened their family, which totally makes sense. However, all of the children reported that a dog accompanied them for several days until it ran back into the forest. And Selene and Leslie drew pictures of the dog and said that was their protector. And the drawings do look like Wilson, who actually, sadly, was never seen again. But even when they were found, the children, understandably, were still scared of the searchers in the bush and tried to remain quiet. If baby Kristen hadn't have cried, they may have been lost out there forever. And in addition to the miracle of just finding the children, the operation proved to be a rare point of unity between the indigenous Colombians and the state. Even the Carolina Ramirez Front released a statement celebrating the children's rescue. However, after the children were released from the hospital, they were placed in an institution. Manuel announced that he wanted full custody, but thankfully, he was arrested after new evidence came out about his abuse of Magdalena and the children. It was revealed that he had attacked Magdalena with a machete while she was holding baby Kristen.
What is a machete?
An event that led to him losing governorship. Thank God. He also had thrown Magdalena from a balcony while she was pregnant, abused Selene, and may have even sexually abused Leslie. And as of 2024, he was still in jail awaiting trial. God, what a fucking phony for him to get out there and act like he cares about his kids. Scum. Just purely for attention.
I think he was like definitely for attention, and also just watching his own ass. Like he's a political person, regardless of his status as an indigenous person. But he wants the governorship back. He wants some sort of influence in Bogota. So he's absolutely doing this for attention and to be like, look, I'm a good.
I'm such a great dad. I'm out here in the Amazon looking for my kids.
So concerned.
I'm just so grateful though that they figured that out, because if the kids had gone back to him and then
here comes Color Theory.
It just would have been horrible.
Who knows? After surviving all of that, they may not have survived their own father. But it also makes you wonder if this event hadn't happened, Would he have ever been held responsible for his abuse against Magdalena?
I don't think he would have, sadly.
I don't think so either.
Just for the fact that, like, I mean, it's no secret that a lot of abuse goes unreported. Even when it is reported, no one does anything about it.
Mhm.
So I kind of think this might have been a large reason as to, you know, why he's in jail right now.
Well, I also think Valencia in the beginning was telling Magdalena that he was lying about the Carolina Ramirez front trying to kill him and the family.
Yeah.
And even though there's no proof to suggest otherwise, it still seems like it was more like the people in Puerto Zabala were realizing that he was
Nah,
a
guys, I'm
monster
tired of
when
streaming,
he
man.
lost the governorship, and he was basically just running away from the abuse and was creating this lie so he would still have.
That's what I did so far.
Again, it could still be the truth, but that's
Highly doubt.
My grandma had a really unusual name, Jacinta, and I was really
The
curious
what?
about where it came from, so I decided to